Welcome to today's Explainer, where we are going to challenge basically everything you thought you knew about the current state of global education. Let me just ask you, when was the last time you read an actually uplifting headline about our schools? If you're like me, it's probably been a minute. For years, the narrative around public education has been, well, just exhausting. You open the news and it's this relentless cycle: teacher burnout, massive learning loss, funding crises, and this unstoppable tidal wave of technology anxiety. Honestly, it's enough to make anyone want to just tune out. But right beneath all that loud, overwhelming noise, something incredibly fascinating is quietly happening around the world. So let's dive into this. After years of pandemic disruptions, AI anxiety, and just nonstop social media overload, so many experts braced for the absolute worst. We all essentially asked the same dramatic question: did public education actually collapse? It really felt like the whole global system was hanging by a thread, ready to completely unravel. But here is the wild part. When we comb through the raw data and look at what's actually happening on the ground, we aren't finding a collapse, we're finding adaptation. Instead of that systemic failure everyone predicted, we're seeing the rise of what experts call black swans. Now, if you follow finance, you know a black swan is usually a devastating negative shock to the market. But borrowing this term for education, it's a massive paradigm shift. An educational black swan is a rare, unpredictable breakthrough with a profound positive impact that completely redefines what we thought was possible. These are quiet, deeply hopeful stories of human-centered breakthroughs that are utterly defying all that doom and gloom. And the best part? They're popping up exactly where you'd least expect them. To put this into perspective, let's look at Washington, D.C. Imagine a really large, complex, urban school district, the exact kind of environment pundits love to write off as too difficult to fix. Yet, over 17,000 students there participated in a massive literacy initiative that surprisingly led the entire United States in academic recovery. According to Stanford Educational Opportunity Project data, DC schools didn't just tread water during a crisis, they aggressively led the nation. Historically, disadvantaged students actually started outperforming comparison groups, and long-standing achievement gaps narrowed substantially. It was just a massive surprise to the system. And you know what the most fascinating part of this monumental recovery is? It wasn't driven by some flashy new app or a massive systemic overhaul. It was driven by a relentless return to foundational, human-led instruction. We're talking intensive tutoring, teacher coaching, grounded science of reading instruction, and just relentless data-driven collaboration between educators. Why this matters so much is that it proves large urban districts absolutely can recover quickly. But they do it when they double down on core human capabilities, rather than frantically searching for some magical tech bullet. Which brings us to Section 2, reclaiming the human element. Okay, so this human focus brings us to the absolute biggest global tension right now: artificial intelligence. And there's this profound irony happening today. As machines get smarter, they're actually forcing classrooms to become way more human. Just look at UNESCO's new global framework. Instead of mechanizing schools and replacing teachers with screens, AI is pushing educators to prioritize irreplaceable human skills. Look at the pillars here: critical thinking, ethics, creativity, human judgment. Instead of going robotic, educators are leaning hard into what makes us uniquely human. They're prioritizing empathetic seminar discussions and nuanced creative problem solving. Basically, the exact things a chatbot simply cannot replicate. To really see this shift in action, look at the David Nyber Academy over in England. They took a long, hard look at their community and completely eliminated their population of what the UK calls NEETs: young people not in education, employment, or training. How on earth did they pull that off? By shifting their entire educational model from pure content delivery to human capability development. Under the old model, kids just sat quietly while a teacher delivered algebraic formulas or historical dates. But the Academy realized that simply delivering raw content wasn't enough to prep kids for a really complex world. They totally revolutionized their approach by teaching students from age 11 how to actively build resumes, conduct mock interviews, and collaborate on authentic, real-world business problems. Just pause and think about that for a second. An 11-year-old practicing a mock interview for their future career. It's astonishingly proactive. By focusing on employability, trades, and entrepreneurial skills, they proved that practical human skills are your ultimate safeguard for the future. They literally taught these kids how to build a resilient adult future. And the result? Virtually every single student graduated into employment, apprenticeships, or further education. Just incredible. Moving right along to Section 3, redefining wellness and joy. As we rethink what humans do best, there is a massive coordinated global movement to bring wellness, physical movement, and just pure joy back into learning. During her 2026 visit to Italy, Princess Catherine spotlighted the Reggio approach. This is a brilliant educational model that entirely rejects rigid standardization in favor of nature-based, child-led learning. She noted how fascinating it is to put children and childhood directly at the heart of the community. Rejecting that heavy standardization is such a radical, joyful shift, right? It means teachers act as collaborative facilitators, not dictators, allowing the whole community to actively participate in raising curious kids. Educators worldwide are aggressively ditching the old industrial model of silent compliance. Think back to your own PE classes growing up. For a lot of us, it was dodgeball anxiety, rigid rules, and this elite competition that actually harmed generations of students emotionally. Now, schools are asking a really profound new question. What if student engagement matters way more than blind compliance? We are seeing a massive shift away from those stressful environments toward participatory learning, inclusive movement, and wellness-based physical education, where literally every single child feels comfortable and valued. And this exact same realization is bringing the fine arts back from the brink. For years, the arts were treated as this luxury extra that was always the first thing slashed from the budget. But with public figures like country artist Maren Morris stepping up and donating her tour profits directly to underprivileged schools' music programs, the arts are staging a massive comeback. Why? Because of neuroscience. Participation in music and arts isn't just fun. It improves memory, enhances emotional regulation, and accelerates language development. It literally rewires the human brain for better overall engagement across every single subject. All right, Section 4, Schools as Human Ecosystems. This deeply holistic approach to wellness and arts proves that schools aren't merely academic factories designed to pump out standardized test scores. They are intricate, living human ecosystems, and we're seeing an explosion of global community innovations that treat them exactly this way. Look at Their World's Cohort 5 innovations scaling up in 2026. This isn't just a random list of charities. This is a coordinated, massive global experiment in community care across the global south. From EduSpots in Ghana, reaching 50,000 kids through volunteer educators, to BookBunk Trust transforming neglected libraries in Kenya into vibrant safe spaces, these organizations are powerfully converging on mental health support and deep community inclusion. The sheer scale of these Black Swans is what's truly breathtaking. Take the Chance for Childhood organization operating in Ghana, Rwanda, and Uganda. Their Disability Detect app has this massive target goal. They are aiming to screen 500,000 kids for early special needs by 2027. That's 500,000. This is the exact scale of human-centered innovation we're talking about here. When you combine smart, targeted tools with a deep desire to help marginalized communities, the impact ripples outward to hundreds of thousands of lives. But remember, behind these massive 500,000 student statistics are intimate, deeply personal, life-changing micro-hopes. Take Margarita Palico, a Mayan Quichua woman from Guatemala. She grew up in a society where her parents simply didn't believe girls needed an education. The stakes for her were incredibly high. But at 13, she discovered a flexible adult learning program. She learned math while working at the local market. Today, she's a social worker running her own successful weaving company, and she proudly sends her 5-year-old daughter to that exact same school. That's a Black Swan in action. It completely altered her entire family's generational trajectory. We see this exact same fierce determination in UNESCO's timeless stories. It is so easy for us to take accessible education for granted, but consider young adults like 21-year-old Awa Traoré in Burkina Faso. She missed out on schooling entirely in her youth. Now she works tirelessly all day shopping and cooking, just so she can attend literacy classes at 6:30 at night. When asked about her journey, she put it so beautifully, "I don't know what the future has in store for me, but this is my second chance, and I don't want to waste it." It's just a profound reminder of the sheer privilege of learning. Which brings us to our final part, Section 5, The Future Arrives Quietly. These stories, from Guatemala to Burkina Faso, remind us of a fundamental truth. A perfectly standardized curriculum is entirely useless if a child feels unsafe or unseen. Students ultimately succeed because of profound, quiet human connections. Researchers call these essential elements protective factors. We're talking about things like a deep sense of belonging, consistent mentorship, physical and emotional safety, active encouragement, and positive identity development. The data proves that whether it's an 8-year-old Afghan refugee learning a new language in Greece or a student navigating middle school in a small town in Michigan, a thriving education relies entirely on mentorship and belonging. The human ecosystem is what makes the curriculum actually work.
The biggest misconception about education is that transformation always arrives with a dramatic bang, like a sweeping piece of federal legislation or some trillion-dollar tech rollout. But the truth is, through quiet resilience, local grassroots experiments, and dedicated teachers who simply refuse to give up, the global education system bent under immense pressure over the last few years. But it did not break. Actually, it is purposefully evolving into something significantly more humane than it ever was before. So, I want to leave you with this final thought to really spark your curiosity today. If these incredible quiet breakthroughs, these educational black swans, are happening all over the globe, what unseen transformations are already reshaping the classrooms right in your own community? Take a closer look, because the future of education might be quietly thriving just down the street from where you sit. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, and I'll see you next time.